Hello viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is MD Saiful Islam and Assistant Teacher of Kolo Jadusha School, Rhino Novan, and you are most welcome in my Saiful English Academy. Again, dear learners, the students were very weak in English, who think English as our subject, who can to pronounce any words accurately, who can to do spelling any words accurately, who can to change narration from direct to indirect easily, who can to change voice from active to passive accurately, who have various kinds of problems in English grammar. After all, there are some students who can learn English in a renowned coaching center for their financial problem. Of course, you know that, my dear learners. Only for the students, I want to dedicate my video classes. Okay, my dear learners. With this reference, various kinds of class have been already uploaded in my YouTube channels. With the difference of my previous classes, today's class have been present in front of you with a new adventure, a new class. My dear learners, of course, you know that. So, my dear learners, take a note. I am take a look at the book and try to understand. Okay, my dear learners. But before starting today's class, I want to ask some question to you. My first question is, my dear learners, what's an imperative sentence? What's an imperative sentence? Of course, I know that, my dear learners, hope that you will be able to reply my questions, but I want to add something here because various kinds of discussion matter was regard various kinds of sentence in my previous classes. Okay, my dear learners. At this moment, I want to add something here. We can say, my dear learners, an imperative sentence is a sentence which expresses an order, a command, advice, proposal, prohibition, etc. Topics. Such kinds of sentence we can call an imperative sentence. Okay, my dear learners. But my second question is to you, my dear learners. How many ways? How can we select any imperative sentence? Any imperative sentence? Hope that you will be able to reply my questions. But I want to add something here, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Selection oil of an imperative sentence. Can you gauge, my dear learners, how many ways we can select an imperative sentence? Of course, you know that, my dear learners, but I want to add something here. We can select an imperative sentence at least 7 ways. At least 7 ways. Number one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number one, in number one, we can select an infinitive sentence in this way: starting word, verb, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word, verb. Starting word, verb, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners. Number two, starting word, donut, oblique, turn, and finally ended with a notes of full stop. Number three, starting word, never, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word, always, always, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word, late, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word, verb plus personal object, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word, please, oblique, kindly, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, take a look at the book and try to understand. So whatever the things I want to make you understand, we can select an imperative sentence at least 7 ways. At least 7 ways. Number one, you have to mind it is why, my dear learners. Starting with verb and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting with verb and finally ended with the full stop. Number two, starting with do not oblique don't. Starting with do not oblique don't and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners. Number three, starting word never. Starting word never and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word always. Starting word always. Starting word always. Finally ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word late. Starting word late, finally ended with the notes of full stop. starting word verb plus personal object, verb plus personal object. Finally, ended with the notes of full stop. Starting word phrase oblique kindly, phrase oblique kindly. Finally, ended with the notes of full stop. Of that you have understood clearly. Now, my dear learners, I am trying to show you various kinds of structure of various kinds of condition, such kinds of selection. So, my dear learners, let's get started. Rule number one. Let's get started. Rule number one. Rule number one. In rule number one, my dear learners, I am trying to show you various kinds of structure, especially starting word verb. Starting word verb. If you notice any sentence, which sentence is started with verb, and you'll have to convert such kinds of statement into active to passive. You'll have to follow the structure. You'll have to follow the structure. Main precondition of this rule, my dear learners, starting word verb. Starting word verb. So, my dear learners, try to note the structure shortly. Structure. I am trying to show you shortly structure of this rule. Shortly structure of this rule. Okay, my dear learners. Take a look at the board and try to understand. At first, we'll have to use let. Next, subjective form of object. Subjective form of object. Next, be next third form of verb. Next, extension if possessed. Finally ended with the notes of full stop. Finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, try to memorize the structure. If an imperative sentence is started with a verb, you'll have to follow the structure at the time of converting an active voice and passive voice. Okay, my dear learners, structure is below in this way. My dear learners, at first we'll have to use let. We'll have to use let. Next, we'll have to use subjective form of object. Subjective form of object. Then be. Then be. Then three form of verb. Third form of verb. Third form of verb. Then extension of the statement. Extension of the statement if possessed and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Of that you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, of that you have understood the structures pattern. And now let's go to give some example to remove some weakness about this rule. So write down example. First, the letter quickly. Okay, my dear learners. So try to rearrange what is the precondition of this rule, my dear learners. The precondition or prerequisite of this rule is that, my dear learners, of course, starting word with verb, starting word verb, starting word verb. So, my dear learners, try to employ or try to use the structure pattern. At first, we'll have to use let. Next, subjective form of object. Here, object the letter. Lecture. Then be. Then third form of verb. Here verb first and third form of verb first, of course, first said, and then extension. Here extension quickly. At last you'll have to use full stop. At last you'll have to use full stop. Hope that you have understood clearly. Number two. Do the work quickly. Okay, my dear learners, try to use the structures pattern. At first, we'll have to use let. So write down let. Then we'll have to use subjective form of object. Here, object the work. Next, be third form of verb. Here, verb do, and with three form of verb do. Of course, turn. Next, X.
আগামীকাল সকাল 7 ঘটিকার সময় উনি আসবে আগামীকাল সকাল 7 ঘটিকার যেহেতু তাদের পাশে সার্বজনীন ব্যক্তিবাদের সম্মানিত এলাকাবাসী আগামীকাল বৃহস্পতিবার 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 করছি রাস্তাটা প্রত্যেক সদর সাধারণ প্রমাণ করা হয়েছে আগামীকাল সকাল 7:00
So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to use this structures pattern. At first, we'll have to use let, then subjective form of object, here objective form, the word. Okay. Next, B. Next, third form of verb, here verb, do, and third form of verb, do opposite turn, and extension quickly of the you have understood clearly. But my dear learners, it's not a thing that my dear learners, sometimes you can see that if an imperative sentence is started with but refers to an advice. In this case, we'll have to follow the structure. We'll have to follow the structure. Of course, mind that such kinds of sentence is started with verb also, but refers to any advice. Refers to any advice. So, in this case, we'll have to use the structures pattern in this way. Subjective form of object. Next, we'll have to use should be. Next, third form of verb. Next, action turn if possessed, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Hope that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, you are told in this time, in the midst of this rule, my dear learners, of course, referring this rule number one. Sometimes you will notice that some sentence, some prerequisite or precondition, some sentence refers to an advice, in this case, you will have to follow the structures. So, example.
এই সম্পর্কে আরো সানকল জবাব করা হবে এভাবে সানকল কষ্ট প্রয়োজন না আগামীকাল সকাল 7:00 সময় মনে রাখবেন আগামীকাল সকাল 7:00 সময়
Okay, my dear learners, I have written two examples. Obey the parents, obey the parents. Okay, my dear learners, of course, try to think deeply. This sentence refers to any advice. So, you'll have to use the structures pattern. So, my dear learners, try to note and try to listen to me well. Let's get started to write the answer script. Subjective form of object. Here, object the parents, and subjective form of parents, of course, the parents. Okay, my dear learners, then we'll have to use should be. Then we'll have to use third form of verb. Here verb obey, but third form of verb, of course, obey. My dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand the second example. Honor the teacher. Honor the teacher. This sentence, of course, started with verb and refers to any advice. So, my dear learners, try to use the structures pattern. At first, you will have to use subjective form of object. Here, object is the teacher. The teacher. Sorry, teachers. Next, we'll have to use should be. Then, third form of verb. Third form of verb. Next, extension. Finally, full stop. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly rule number one. Now, I am trying to show you rule number two. So, write down rule number two. The main precondition of rule number two is, my dear learners, starting word, of course, oblique, do not, oblique, don't. Okay, my dear learners, listen to me well. If any imperative sentence is started, do not, oblique, don't, and you'll have to convert any voice from active to passive, you'll have to follow the structures. My dear learners, in this case, you'll have to use. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand whatever the themes I want to make you understand. At first, you'll have to use let not. At first, you will have to use let not. Of course, it's notable things that my dear learners, when you use let not, do not oblique don't must be deleted. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Then subjective form of object, subjective form of object, then third form of then be, then third form of verb, then extension, then full stop. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Now, my suggestion to you, I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, instantly you'll have to follow the structures and try to save and try to memorize it instantly. First, the main precondition of this rule, my dear learners, the main prerequisite of precondition of this rule is that, my dear learners, such categories of sentences started do not oblique don't. Do not oblique don't. If you can notice such kinds of prerequisite in the midst of any kinds of statement or sentence, you have to follow the structure. So, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, let's get started some example to remove some weakness about this. So, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly. Jonot Chela lie. Okay, my dear learners. So try to use the structure pattern. At first, we'll have to use let not. Then subjective form of object li. Then we'll have to use be. Then third form of verb child. Then extension. Finally, lots of full stop. Hope that you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners. Next example. Don't waste your time. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, try to use the structures pattern. At first, let not, then subjective form of object here, objective form your time, next be, next V3 form of verb, wasted, next extension, full stop. Okay, my dear learners, of course, this statement, example number 2, refers to any advice, refers to any advice. So, my dear learners, we can write the answers in the another way. Another way. Your time should not be wasted. Okay, my dear learners, similarly, rule number 1, if any sentence refers to any advice, you'll have to use this structures pattern. Use this structures pattern. At first, you'll have to use subjective form of object. Then you'll have to use should not be. Then we'll have to use third form of verb. Next we'll have to use extension. Finally, in there with the notes of full stop. Of that you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Already, I have finished rule number 1 and rule number 2. So, my dear learners, in this case, I am trying to show you what's the relationship and what's the prerequisite and what's the structure rule number 3. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly. Rule number 3. If an imperative sentence is started with never, you will have to follow the following structure at the time of converting any active voice into passive voice. So, my dear learners, let's write down the shortly form of structure. In this case, you have to use write down let not, but never must be deleted. Never must be deleted. Next, number two, you'll have to use subjective form of object. Next, you will have to use either be. Next, third form of verb, extension if suggest, and finally, indeed with the notes of full stop. Of that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, what the main prerequisite or prerequisite of rule number three? Of course, you know that you were told that, my dear learners, if an imperative sentence is started with never, and you'll have to follow the structure of the trying of converting an active voice into passive voice. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, I want to suggest to you instantly at this moment you'll have to memorize the structures and save in your memory. Okay, my dear learners. Hope that you have understood clearly. Now, let's go to give some example reference to this rule. Okay, my dear learners. Never waste your time. Next example, never mix with bad boys. Okay, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. At first, instead of never, at the place of never, we'll have to use let not. Let not. Next, second step, we'll have to subjective, change subjective form of object. Here, objective form, you try. Your time. Here, bad voyage. Next, we'll have to use every. Every. Next, third form of verb. Third form of verb. Here, verb oist. So we'll have to use third form of oist. Oisted. Oisted. Here, mixed. An extension opposite, but here extension with. Of that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Of that you have understood clearly, my dear learners. Already I have finished rule number one, rule number two, rule number three, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Okay, my dear learners. Hope that you have understood clearly. Now I am trying to discuss rule number four. Rule number four. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand whatever the things I want you make you understand. Okay, my dear learners, in rule number four, main precondition of rule number four is that, my dear learners, if any imperative sentence is started with always, all OH. You'll have to follow the following structure at the time of converting an active voice into passive voice. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, main precondition of this rule or rule number four is that, my dear learners, starting word must be always. Starting word must be always. If you can notice in this condition or prerequisite, you'll have to follow the structures. You'll have to follow this structure. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly. Structure. At first, we'll have to use let. Next, we'll have to use subjective form of objective form. Next, be. Next, third form of verb. Next, or else. Next, extension, and finally, indeed with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, at this moment you'll have to memorize the structure and try to set it in your memory. What the structure, my dear learners? At first you'll have to use let. Next, subjective form of object. Subjective form of object. Next, be. Next, third form of verb. Next, always. Next, extension. Finally, ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. And now I am trying to give you some example to remove some complexity about this rule. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly. Example number one. Always speak the truth. Okay, my dear learners. Now, try to use the structures pattern. At first, you'll have to use sublet. Next, number two, subjective form of object. Subjective form of object. Here, objective form, the truth. Then we'll have to use be. Next, third form of verb. We have verb speak, and third form of verb speak, of course, spoken. Spoken. Next, always. Finally, ended with an also full stop. Okay, my dear learners. Next example. Always make the best use of try. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Now, you'll have to solve this example according to your concept, according to the structure. So, my dear learners, at first, follow the structures. At first, you'll have to use let. Next, number two, subjective form of object. Here, objective form, the best use of try. Okay, my dear learners, next, you'll have to use be. Next, we'll have to use third form of verb. Here, verb make, and third form of verb make, of course, make. Okay, my dear learners, final have to use always. Then we'll have to use extension, no forest. Okay, my dear learners, last, the finally ended with an also full stop. Of that, you have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners, now I am trying to show you rule number 5. Rule number 5. Okay, my dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand. Rule number 5. Learners, main prerequisite or free condition of rule number 5 is that, my dear learners, if any imperative sentence is started with let, you'll have to follow the following structures. Okay, my dear learners, at the time of converting any voice from active to passive of imperative sentence. Okay, my dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood the prerequisite or free condition of this rule. Of course, it's a notable thing that, my dear learners, such kinds of example is started with let. Started with let. So, my dear learners, you have to use at first let, next non-personal object, next beam, next third form of verb, next preposition by, next personal object, next extension if possessed. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, I want to suggest to you, my dear learners, you have to memorize and you will have to try to set in your memory this kind of structure at the time of converting any voice from active to passive. Okay, my dear learners, so my dear learners, now later let's go to give some example about this rule, about this precondition of emphatic sentence. Okay, my dear learners, number one, let me do the work now. Next, let us play cricket now. Number three, let Rohim solve the problem today. Okay, my dear learners, so my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand whatever the things understands. The main requisite or precondition of this rule number 5 is that, my dear learners, starting word of course let. And if you can notice such kinds of precondition, any kind of statement or sentence of imperative sentence, and at the time of telling such kinds of voice from active to passive, you have to follow the structure. So, my dear learners, try to use, at first you have to use let, then inferior. Okay, middle learners, it's a notable things that which I can't work shift to middle learners. Mind you can try to save in your memory. If any imperative sentence is started with like must double object possessed, such category of sentence double object possessed, and first object personal, which you can call indirect object, and second object is called non-personal, which you can call give your assume of non-personal. Okay, middle learners, object you about to so I try to use then be. Next third form of verb done. Preposition by. Personal object here, personal object may. Extension now. Full stop. Okay, my dear learners. Next example. At first we have to use let non-personal object here, non-personal object cricket. Next be. Next third form of verb, spectrum of verb. Next, preposition by. Preposition by. Then we have to use a personal object. Here, personal object as. Then extension here, extension now. And finally, indeed with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Now, my dear learners, you have to solve the third example yourself. So, my dear learners, try to solve it yourselves. At first, you'll have to use let. Intro. What's the intro? Here intro. The problem. Problem. Next, we'll have to use be. Then third form of verb. Here verb solve. Solve. And third form of verb solve, of course, solve. Solved. Okay. Next, preposition by. Next, personal object. Here personal object Rohim. Extension here, extension today finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly, so my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So now at this moment I am going to discuss rule number 6, and in rule number 6 the main prerequisite or precondition, of course, starting word verb plus phi o, verb plus phi o. Okay, my dear learners, if any imperative sentence is started with verb plus phi o, then you have to follow the structure at the time of converting any active voice into passive voice. Okay, my dear learners, and in this case we'll have to use the flying structure. So my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly what the structures I want to make you understand. In this case you'll have to use only preposition for. Okay, my dear learners, if any imperative sentence is started verb plus you'll have to follow the structures, my dear learners, of that you have understood clearly. Now, my dear learners, I want to suggest to you, you will have to, you should memorize or set in your memory any kind of structure at the time of converting any verb from active to passive. Okay, my dear learners, at first you'll have to use let. Okay, ensure, we, verb, third form of verb, preposition for, preposition for, preposition for, PO, PO means personal object, extension, extension, full stop. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you understood clearly. Now I am going to give you some examples to eradicate some complexity about this rule. My dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand and try to note instantly. Bring me a rose. Buy me a new shirt. Give me some food. No. Okay, my dear learners, now we are trying to discuss and I'm trying to show you about the precondition and structure of rule number 4. Any kinds of imperative sentences started verb plus fear, verb plus fear. Okay, my dear learners, so take a look at the board and try to understand. Okay, my dear learners, I have written three examples. I have written three examples to remove the complexity about this rule. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. First example, I have written. First example, bring me a rose. Bring me a rose. So, my dear learners, now we'll have to follow the structures pattern. At first, we'll have to use let. At first, we'll have to use let. Next, impure. Here, impure a rose. Then we'll have to use be. Then third form of verb. Here verb bring and third form of verb being of course brought. You'll have to mind, sir. Dear learners, bring, brought, brought. Bring, brought, brought. Bring, brought, brought. Next, preposition for. Preposition for. Then personal object. Here personal object may. And finally ended with the notes of full stop. Of the two you have understood clearly. Now take a look at the board and try to understand second example. At first, we'll have to use let. Next, intro. This sentence possessed intro a new shirt. Then we'll have to use be. Then third form of verb. Here verb by. And third form of verb by, of course, bought. Bought. Okay, my dear learners. Then we'll have to use preposition for. Then personal object. Here personal object me. Full stop. Next example, my dear learners, try to solve yourself. Let enfure, here enfure, some food. Next, be. Next, third form of verb, here verb give. And third form of verb give, of course, given. Give, gave, given. Give, gave, given. Next, preposition for. And then we have to use personal object. This is for this personal object to me. And finally, ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. You have understood clearly. Okay, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. Now, I am trying to show you rule number 7. Rule number 7. Okay, my dear learners, try to note instantly. Sometimes you can notice that if an imperative sentence is started, please oblique kindly. Please oblique kindly. Okay, my dear learners, then you will have to follow the structures. Then you will have to follow this structure. Okay, my dear learners, try to note instantly. Sometimes we can see that, my dear learners, some imperative sentences started. Please oblique kindly. Please oblique kindly. Of course, you know that, my dear learners, it's a notable thing that, my dear learners, if any imperative sentence is started, please oblique kindly. Of course, such kinds of please oblique kindly refers to any sentence of request. Any sentence of request, and in this case, you'll have to write down the structure. So, my dear learners, try to write down the structure. The structure is given below. At first, you you at first you'll have to write you are requested to instead of please public, and then then one of verb, first of verb, and then extension, and finally ended with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, try to note and try to memorize and try to save in your memory this example. Okay, my dear learners, so listen to me well, my dear learners, and especially rule number 7, I want to make you understand sometimes various kinds of imperative sentences started. Please oblique kindly. Of course, it's a notable thing that please oblique kindly sometimes is used last of the statement. Last of the statement. Okay, my dear learners. If you notice any kinds of prerequisite or precondition, such kinds of condition, you'll have to follow the structures at the time of converting an invoice from active to passive. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, let's give some example. Let's give some example. Number 1, please help me. Okay, my dear learners. Number two, give me some food kindly. Number three, don't waste your time, please. Okay, my dear learners. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. At first, you have to write down or use you are requested to. You are requested to. So, write down you are requested to. Okay, my dear learners, but mind it, my dear learners, when you will use you are requested to, please oblique and must be deleted. Must be deleted. Then we'll have to use beyond form of verb. Here, beyond form of verb help and extension may. Okay, finally indeed with the notes of full stop. Okay, my dear learners, now think about second example. Kind must be used last of the statement, but no problem. It's you'll have to mind that, my dear learners, please, or kindly must be used maybe first or last, no problem. Okay, but you'll have to follow the same structure. You'll have to follow the same structure. So write down you are requested to. Okay, my dear learners, but mind it, my dear learners, when you will use you are requested to, please oblique must be deleted. Must be deleted. Then v1 form of verb. Here v1 form of verb give. Finally extension may some food. Okay, my dear learners, now think about third example. Now think about third example. This is possessed place, but at last of the statement. But you will have to mind that, my dear learners, please only kindly may be used last first middle, no problem. But you will have to follow the same structure. Follow the same structure. At first, you will have to use you are requested to. You are requested two. Okay, my dear learners. Okay, hope that you have understood clearly. But take a look at the board and try to understand. This example is started with don't only do not. Sometimes you will notice that, my dear learners, such categories of example is started with don't oblique do not. Don't oblique do not. So, my dear learners, in this sketch, you'll have to use instead of don't oblique do not to. Not to. Okay, my dear learners, hope that you have understood clearly. Then, beyond form of verb. Here, beyond form of verb, highest extension, your time. Hope that you have understood clearly. So, my dear learners, already I tried to make you understand rules of various kinds of rules of imperative sentence. Already, I have finished rule number seven. Rule number seven. So, my dear learners, today's class I won't London, but before ending today's class, I want to share something here. You, my dear learners, of course, you know that, my dear learners, I'm a new teacher or new teacher in YouTube channels, and at the time of making various kinds of video classes, I am trying to use English conversation from beginning to end of my class. So, my dear viewers, of course, you know that to adult is human, and I am not out of this concept, my dear learners. So, at first, I want to apologize to you, and I request you, if you notice any faults or mistakes in the midst of my video classes, please excuse me, and pray to Allah for me so that I can serve you in this way throughout my video classes, and so that I can help you in this way, my dear learners. Not only you, but also all students or learners, my beloved learners, through all over the world, all over the world. So, my dear learners, no more today. Come to see again with our new arrangement, with our new class, and pray to Allah for me so that I can make a new video class, such kinds of beautiful class only for you. And at last of today's class, I want to request you, my dear learners, if you feel loyal to watch my video classes, please like it, share, comment more and more, and try to spread all over the world, not only country but also all over the world. So, my dear learners, number today come to say again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.